Okay,
This meeting is being recorded.
good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another social emotional workshop. We are with Henry Ford Health, and they are going to be talking about the facts about marijuana. So, Lisa, welcome back.
Wait, I thought today was tobacco.
I'm so sorry, tobacco. My apologies. Welcome back, Lisa. We're so glad to have you.
I'm happy to be here. So hi, everyone. So I'm a social worker at Henry Ford Maple Grove Center, which is the inpatient and outpatient substance abuse treatment facility located in West Bloomfield. And we do treatment for adults 18 and up and also for adolescents 13 to 18. So I'm here today to talk to you about tobacco, but we're going to exclude anything involving vaping with electronic cigarettes because next month, we have a presentation on vaping alone. So I don't want you to wonder, why did we not even discuss that? Okay, so tobacco, as you know, is a plant. And in the tobacco is a drug called nicotine. And nicotine is the most highly addictive drug there is. I've been working in this field a very long time, and I have heard so many times from so many people that nicotine is even more addictive than heroin. Okay, I believe that. It is very, very difficult to quit once a person starts, but it is possible. So where I work, we are a smoke-free facility, and 75% of our patients smoke. And so when they come in, they can't smoke anymore. So we help them with the patch, the nicotine patch, and the nicotine gum, Nicorette gum. And what that does is it very slowly releases nicotine into the body. And then over time, there's less and less and less. On an outpatient basis, many people can get help from medications like Chantix and Wellbutrin. But because of the nature of our facility and the fact that people already have enough medical problems with enough medications, we don't use that on an inpatient basis. So it is possible to quit. It's very difficult to quit. And some of you who are a little bit older may remember the commercials, "Don't quit quitting." Wondering if anybody remembers that, because many people try to quit many, many times before they are actually successful. So nicotine is the most highly addictive drug there is. And when people don't have it, when their body is used to it, they often feel irritable and crabby and anxious and unable to settle down and relax. So people who are addicted to nicotine are going to need help in that way. So what about our kids? You are all teachers. The good news is the amount of teens and preteens smoking today is less than in many recent decades, in part because of education. Although I will say that vaping is changing the landscape, but we'll talk about that another time. So nicotine is in cigarettes and cigars, chewing tobacco, pipes, hookahs, and the electronic cigarettes. And nicotine is incredibly dangerous to our health. We all know that it is incredibly cancer causing, but on a different level, we want our kids to understand that it makes our heart beat faster. It's harder to breathe. People who smoke are more likely to have respiratory illnesses like colds and flu. It can create heart disease, wrinkly skin, so people look older at a much younger age, a rough voice or a gravelly voice, bad breath, teeth become yellow, and fingertips become yellow from holding the cigarette or the cigar. And we want to teach our kids that we want pink, healthy lungs, and people who are heavy smokers, they will have black lungs. So can a person's black lungs rejuvenate into healthy pink lungs? They can over time, unless a disease has set in. So if they have cancer or they have emphysema, then it is not likely to reverse itself. So our kids need to know, even if they're smoking today, they can reverse the health effects if they stop. So some cigarettes are supposedly safer than others, they claim, because there's different types of filters, and this is really not true. Okay, the tar and the nicotine is dangerous to everyone. There's no such thing as being safe. So moving on, let's talk about the law. So I live in Michigan. I know you are all over the country, but in Michigan, the law is a person has to be over the age of 21 to smoke, possess, or purchase any type of nicotine product. So the reason for that, in part, is because of, the older a person gets, the more responsible they are, but it's not enforced very well. So there's party stores and vape shops and things like that, gas stations that often sell to minors. And kids often stand outside of these stores and they can ask an older person to go in and purchase for them. So that happens as well. So it is very dangerous. The government puts warnings on cigarette packages. So I have in front of me here, which I'm going to hold up for you to see, 3 different brands of cigarettes. The way I describe this to the kids is that it's like candy bars come in Hershey's and Milky Way and Reese's peanut butter cups. It's the same idea. Different companies that make different candy bars, different companies can make different brands of cigarettes. But what is consistent with every brand of cigarette is that on the side of the package, there's a warning by our Surgeon General. Okay, and every package is a little bit different depending on what it says. This one says smoking by pregnant women may result in fetal injury, premature birth, and low birth rate. This one here says that's the same one, interesting. This one here says quitting smoking now greatly reduces serious risks to your health. So we want our kids to know that if the Surgeon General, who's a doctor for the government, is going to require warnings on cigarette packages and also every type of tobacco product, it cannot be safe. So we want them to understand that. So many people use nicotine to handle stress. So teaching our kids better coping skills is a really good idea. The other thing to discuss about that is secondhand and thirdhand smoke. I'm sure that most of you have heard of secondhand smoke. So if you and I are together, and let's say we're in a car and I'm smoking and you're not, you're still inhaling the air that I'm expelling with my smoke. So you are impacted as well. It's getting into your body and your lungs. But thirdhand smoke is if I smoke in my home and then I invite you over and I'm not smoking, but you're in my home environment, you're inhaling the smoke that's in my carpet, in my couches, in my drapes. So you're getting what we call thirdhand smoke. So all of this, of course, is very dangerous. It can create all sorts of different types of lung problems as a person gets older. So other than that, I just want to tell you about the impact of this. Many teens think that all kids are smoking, and they're not. Okay, the amount of kids who are smoking these days are much less, as I said, in recent decades, because they are getting educated. So I don't know if your school educates, but one piece of the education is social media and regular media, TV, magazines. And what they do, build billboards on the highway, in-store promotions, posters, they show tobacco use as normal part of everyday activity. So they use catchy slogans and they use cartoon characters and very attractive people with white teeth, even if they're a smoker, to give promises that your life will be better or you will be more popular if you use these products. And of course, there's no truth to these ads, but they work. People purchase the products because these ads work. So we want to educate our kids to be critical thinkers and really evaluate, does this make sense? Would someone who's a chronic smoker have those perfectly white teeth? Would someone who is a chronic smoker be able to participate so well in athletic activities? Okay, so when you teach kids like that, they get it. The other thing to consider is many of our kids love sports, especially professional sports, and athletes have in their contracts that they're not allowed to smoke. And why is that? Because the professional leagues care about their health and they want them to be functioning at their utmost. So allowing an athlete to smoke is going to challenge their lung capacity and their ability to perform athletically. So of course, they don't allow that. So with that, I will entertain any questions or comments about tobacco. And as I said, we'll be discussing vaping next month.
Lisa, does chewing tobacco have the same effect on the lungs and the body as inhalation smoking cigarettes?
So great question. So what happens when someone chews tobacco, it gets in the body through the gums, through the mouth, and then it gets into the bloodstream, and the blood travels throughout the body to every organ, but it's not the same as inhaling it through the lungs. So it's not safe and it's not healthy, but it's not likely to give lung cancer. It could give other types of cancer, but not lung cancer.
Good deal. You guys, do you have any questions or comments for Lisa?
Lisa, I have a question. You said that nicotine, not this is news to me, is the most addictive. You have to know how that's measured. Is it measured like because so many people in the population use it as opposed to illicit drugs, or the fact that it's scientifically provable that like per a certain unit of the substance is just it affects people more quickly or something like that?
Okay. Hi, Alan. Good question.
Hi.
So I will say from my experience working in this field since 1993, the patients that I work with who are addicted to other substances and nicotine have multiple times explained that nicotine's the hardest to kick. However, I have also read that. In articles and journals online. And so I think that part of it is from our community and part of it is actual research that's been done that has been written about.
Yeah, I actually was a smoker since I haven't smoked in 30, almost 40 years, but you know,
Wow.
I started smoking when I was 14. I was in high school, and all the advertisements said you were cool if you did it. And I remember when I started smoking, there wasn't even a Surgeon General warning on the pack. It had nothing on it. And people would, my mom, for instance, didn't understand the gravity of the situation. All of her friends smoked. And so when instead of sneaking smoking, I decided, at 15, I wanted to smoke. She said, well, I guess it's all right, but I quit when I was 32 years old. So
Good for
you know, it's,
you.
it's been many, and the thing for me was, some realization that part of the addiction is the oral stimulation part of it. A lot of people substitute toothpicks, gum or candy, or putting something in your mouth. That was extremely helpful for me. But it took me about 2 or 3 tries, and I got through there. Especially with my wife was dead set against it. She said if I wanted to stay married, I better stop smoking.
So that was your priority, to stay
So that
married.
kind of pushed me over the top, right?
Good decision. Okay, so a couple things about what you said. You may remember when there were advertisements on TV, commercials on TV for
Yeah.
cigarettes.
Take
That
one breath
ended
in the
around-
springtime.
So that
was a
ended
six.
around 1971 or 72.
Right.
So they still allow it in newspapers and magazines, but they do not allow it on TV.
Right.
So the other thing is what you said about substituting something orally.
Yeah.
That is one of the tools that they teach people when they're quitting. Oftentimes it's things that aren't going to cause a person to gain weight, like carrot
Right.
sticks. Okay,
Right.
candy, of course, if you eat too much candy, you're going to gain weight. But yeah, it's really tough because people also associate smoking with certain things. So for example, have a cup of coffee and have a
Right.
cigarette. Okay.
Right.
You know, watch a movie and have a cigarette. So breaking those associations are
Yeah.
really important in conquering that addiction. So
Or just
kudos
nothing
to
to
you.
do. Put a cigarette in your mouth. Just I was a smoker. I was a pack a day smoker, and when nothing else was going on, I light a cigarette.
Yeah.
And part of breaking it for me was understanding that my body didn't really need as much nicotine as I was intaking. It was nervous habit, a lot of it.
Yeah.
So I kind of cut it down to like what you said with a cup of coffee. Like a real smoker wants to smoke in the morning, wants to smoke after they eat something. If you drink alcohol when you're having drinks, I cut out the ones in between. And I found I was only smoking 6 a day. So
What you did is you increased your awareness of your habit, and
right,
then you made some mindful changes.
right.
Yeah, good for you. You're a healthier person today because of it.
Absolutely. Insurance is cheaper.
Yes, I'm sure. So here's another thing, a project maybe to do with kids. I have found that they really enjoy this, like at the elementary school level, is you find out what is the average cost of a pack of cigarettes in your state, and then you multiply that by a pack a day times 365 days. And it ends up being a couple $1,000s, maybe like a little over $2,000 generally. So activities I've done with kids is you could spend $2,000 in a year on cigarettes, or you could spend $2,000 a year on something else. So what would it be? And then I give them examples, like a Dairy Queen Blizzard for you and a friend every day, or a pizza every night for your family for a year, or something like that. And kids could be very clever. They've bought, season tickets to Disney World and different things like that. So it just gives them an idea of how to spend their money more wisely, and what a waste it is, because at the end of the year, when you smoke, you have nothing. And at the end of the year, when you do this, you have something to show for it.
How much
So-
again is a pack of cigarettes? You said I haven't checked it in so long.
So
Pack of
in
cigarettes.
Michigan, the last time I looked, when I did this with kids, was last summer. It was between $7 and $8
Yeah, wow.
a
Yeah,
pack. Okay, and of course taxes are very high on cigarettes as well.
right.
So yeah. So just a fun thing to think about doing with your kids.
hmm Thank you.
So I'm glad you're healthier, Alan. You'll live longer because of it.
Look, when I quit smoking, I think they were like about $1.50 or something like that. When I started, they were 35 cents a pack, and you used to be able to get them like in nightclubs. There was machines, and you pull a little knob, put 35 cents in. You pull a knob, and you get a pack of cigarettes. They don't exist anymore, I don't think.
I've not seen one of those in a long time.
Right.
Anyone else? Questions, comments? Please feel free to unmute, or if you prefer, you can type it in the chat and I'll be happy to read it.
Did you go over like statistics on the ages of people who smoke now? I know it's like, I feel like it's a lot less now because of the vaping and all that. But did you happen to go over that? I did join in a little late, so I might have missed it.
Oh, I didn't give any statistics at all, but what I can tell you is 75% of teen smokers will become adult smokers.
Mhm.
Okay, so what happens is, as we've talked about, if anyone's attended any other presentations, when a person starts using a substance at a young age, like a teenager, before their brain is fully developed at the age of 25, they're actually priming their brain for addiction. So therefore, it is not just creating a habit, but it's actually changing their brain. So is it any surprise then that 75% of teen smokers are addicted as adults? It's not. And not only that, the scary thing is they are also at risk of addiction to other drugs, including alcohol. So they're priming their brain as their brain is developing as young teens.
Mhm. Okay, thank you.
I have a question. Is there like a difference in like danger levels between like cigarettes as opposed to pipes as opposed to like cigars? I always heard that cigarettes are better because there's that filter, but I don't know if
So-
that's true.
So there are, I don't know either, but what I will tell you is there are people who use all different forms of nicotine and they all can develop cancer, heart disease, emphysema, lung diseases. So I don't believe that anything is safe. Is one safer than the other? Not that I've ever heard. I mean, what you're actually doing is putting a poison into your body. I don't think that's
Absolutely.
safe, no matter what the method of putting it in your body is.
I remember the first
Yeah.
cigarette I smoked, I threw up. You know, that should have been warning enough, but it isn't with all the advertisement and the exterior forces telling you it's a good thing, you know, or a cool thing, let's say that.
So the good thing about nowadays is kids don't see it as cool the way
Right.
they did when we were kids.
Right. Right.
And the other thing to consider is our society isn't as accepting of it. So many restaurants and buildings are smoke free. You can't, well, you all work from home, but if you were to go to an office building and you were a smoker, on your break, you have to go outside the building in order to smoke. Okay. When I was in high school, there were smoking areas for students.
Right.
That would never happen today.
Any other questions, you guys, comments, concerns?
I've been seeing a lot of ads, and this is more targeted towards vaping, but they said that nicotine can increase symptoms of anxiety and depression. Do you know if there's any truth to that, or if like scientifically nicotine makes you feel one way, but it really actually worsens that same thing?
So a conversation I had with a patient yesterday is actually the opposite. She says that nicotine decreases her anxiety level. So I don't know. I think it would depend on the person. It also depends on what coping skills you have, how severe your mental health issues are. Are you getting treatment for mental health issues? I think there's a whole lot of factors to consider.
My experience was it was soothing in the kind of like the same sense that a baby and a pacifier. You know, one of the first ways we experience the world is through that oral stimulation, you know, and you know, it's kind of like our primordial brain. At least that's the way I hypothesized it. You know, I felt more at ease with it with the cigarette in my mouth.
All right, well, if we don't have any more questions or comments, we will wrap this session up. Thank you so much, Lisa. Excellent presentation. Thank you guys for joining. And we will see you all on Thursday, where we will be talking about marijuana. Yay, I got it right. Thanks again, you guys.
Thank you.
Have a
Thank you,
great
Lisa.
day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.